What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Rated M for Mature, Digital Chumps' very own video game podcast. I'm your host, Alex Tudor, and we have another big episode for you today, including our highly anticipated Elden Ring review, and our first look at the PSVR 2, and much more. And rising again to attempt the claim the title of Elden Lord is one of our own resident tarnished, Ben Sheen. Ben.
Smooth.
You're back. I probably wasn't as smooth as I was hoping it would be, but hey.
It works.
We're back. It works within the theme of today's show.
I'm liking these scripts and my title cards, making me feel like I'm more than myself.
You're nothing but a mere tarnished.
Yeah.
Rising again.
Tarnished by society.
Shunned.
And its expectations of me.
And its expectations. We're gonna, ladies and gentlemen, I lied. This is actually a analysis of the psyche of one Ben Sheen. Ben, we're pulling out the the long couch out the back, and you're gonna lay here, and I'm gonna get my notepad and act like your therapist, and we're just gonna have this long, deep conversation. Anyway, Ben, how you doing?
Oh man, well my dad died when I was 6.
Okay.
Other than that, it's Tuesday with all the twos in it.
Oh, it's Tuesday. It's 2 Tuesday.
Double up on things, and 2 + 2 = 5, according to like Kanye or something.
Everywhere.
I don't know. Yeah, video games. I don't know how you want me to start this.
I don't know.
I was all over the place like 10 minutes ago, and I'm trying to like dial it in.
This whole opening section of the show is always a mess, right? Like, we never really know what to talk about. Hey,
I don't know what to do with my hands most of the time.
Most of the time. But so we're actually going to start off with like a small little news story. We're not starting off with the first news story. Just like a little banter back and forth before we really get into it.
Yeah.
There was news that broke before the podcast started recording.
While I was in the car getting here.
Yeah, while you were in the car getting here, that Call of Duty actually isn't going to be releasing a game next year.
This year.
No. They're releasing this year's game. 2023's game won't be coming out. It's
Okay.
pushed to 2024.
I was driving, so it's not safe to drive and read text.
Correct. Yeah,
Or Twitters,
don't text and
tweets.
drive, don't read tweets, don't read news stories while you're driving.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's crazy news. We don't have a lot of details on it other than it's the game out of Treyarch. I would imagine if it's coming out in 2024, the Microsoft deal will be over by then. So I wonder how much of that is playing into it. I'm sure they'll come out and be like, no, the Microsoft deal has nothing to do with it, but this is what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like just based on the trajectory of Call of Duty, yeah, I guess it makes sense. I think COVID probably hit them more than they would ever admit.
Yeah.
But what Black Ops Cold War was, I think a lot of people would say, it's okay.
And then Vanguard flopped.
Vanguard,
in Call of Duty terms.
In Call of Duty terms, sure, probably will be the best-selling game of
it's the best-selling game this year.
But yeah, I guess it makes sense for Treyarch to take a year off, especially if they're going to try and like overhaul the campaign. They might be trying to overhaul zombies. They were originally the first developer for Call of Duty that did like a battle royale. They did Blackout.
Yeah.
So maybe they're working on their own interpretation of it. Maybe
Warzone is like their big moneymaker right now.
Maybe they're expanding the zombies experience because maybe they're going to make it a looter shooter.
Oh Lord.
Games as a service. Zombies as a service.
Yeah, well, ladies and gentlemen, we will definitely be talking about that very, very soon. And once we have more details. I mean, the news story just broke. We don't really know anything else about it.
Also, sidebar.
Yeah.
Wasn't it hilarious that the news came out that Microsoft approached Activision like 3 days after all the sexual harassment things popped up? Man,
they timed it perfectly.
Yeah,
they heard perklings probably of like it was about to drop, like that news and everything was about to drop. So they're like, hey, we got to prepare our offer. Maybe they're willing to listen.
Yeah, now we can get them for a little bit cheaper.
Have you watched the show Succession on HBO Max? It's a crazy show and how good it is in terms of like just you hate everybody on the show because they're all just rich assholes.
Yes.
But for some reason you are pulling for some of them more than others to fuck over each other. I don't know. It's an interesting show, but Succession is kind of like what I'm thinking through this whole Microsoft and Activision Blizzard deal, because it's just a bunch of rich people throwing money around.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter, and they're getting everything that we love, and they're able to control everything. Anyway, that's besides the point.
Yeah.
It's just reminding me of that. Ben, let's jump into the first news story here. Come closer, dear Tarnished, and listen to my tale of the Elden Ring. Elden Ring is an imposing and magical game, not only from its easy-to-learn and difficult-to-master gameplay, but in its deceptively deep open-world systems that allow the game to flourish. From the outset, I was often overwhelmed by Elden Ring's open-world nature. Entering an open world like Elden Ring's with nary a direction to head is daunting, especially as any wrong direction can result in immediate death. Fragments of the world's map are scattered across the overworld map for players to collect. Dungeon and landmarks are only revealed when players discover them through natural exploration, and the game intentionally deceives the player in ways only a From Software game can. Of course, you can go read my review now over on digitalchumps.com, but for now, I'm free to answer as many questions I can about Elden Ring. So Ben, we're going to put in some gameplay here a little bit as we kind of discuss Elden Ring. Off the jump, what do you want to know about Elden Ring? I can only talk about the first two major sections of the game.
Right.
Bandai Namco and FromSoft reached out and they asked if I would not talk, or any reviewer,
you
talk
personally.
about. Yeah, me personally. Alex, we don't want you to talk about what happens after the first two sections of the game. But so I'm free to answer anything like that.
Okay. So let's just get the big one out of the way.
Sure.
Is this the best From Software game?
Objectively,
Yes.
no.
Oh?
I'm going to say Bloodborne is a better Souls game.
Oh.
Okay.
So it's a better Souls game, but I asked From Software game.
Okay. Well, to be fair, I haven't played all the way through Sekiro, so
Okay.
I can't accurately rank that one in my
fair.
list. I'm talking like Dark Souls 1 through 3 and Bloodborne, and Sekiro is not even really a Soulsborne game. It's its own kind of take on that genre,
Right.
but it's not really the same kind of game.
Okay.
Elden Ring is a fascinating game in that it does everything. So you take an open world game from like Ubisoft, and it takes that game and does everything opposite of that game in terms of open world mechanics.
Okay.
Right? It's deceptively small, actually.
Really?
Right? So when you first walk out into the world, and you just saw some gameplay there a little bit ago, you would see like this large, vast landscape.
Right.
Right? But as you kind of get the lay of the land, and as you start kind of going between the different sections of the game, everything is very manageable in terms of where you're going and what you're exploring. There are things that are still hidden,
Right.
right? But it feels larger than it actually is. And it's daunting, because at the beginning of the game, and if you've seen any of the closed network tests, this isn't really a spoiler, but when you first enter the open world, right, it's just like, here's the open world, go.
Okay.
We're not really going to tell you where to go.
No direction or anything like that.
The only direction you have is this very, very faint beam of gold light that you can barely see across the sky.
Okay.
That points you in the general direction of where you should go for the next kind of, not necessarily story moment, but where the game kind of wants you to go.
Right.
But again, like I mentioned in the intro, it's deceptive,
Yes.
right? You're not really supposed to do that, because if you start to do that, you're going to start encountering things that you're not ready to encounter yet. The game forces you to go explore the world, level up, and we'll talk about the leveling up here in a little bit. I'm assuming you're wanting to ask the leveling up process.
Yes.
But you know, you're exploring the world, and it's just a different kind of take. Dark Souls is probably the most one-to-one comparison to this, as opposed to Bloodborne. Bloodborne is very linear, almost.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Dark Souls does have its semi-open sections for you to kind of traverse through. But man, I would say Bloodborne is better in terms of what I've experienced so far. But yeah.
So I know you're big on Bloodborne partially because of the aesthetic.
The aesthetic is a big part of it, yeah.
Now, this famously has George R.R.
Right.
Martin's involvement in it. And From Software's expertise has kind of been in these sort of like fantastical worlds.
Yeah.
Do you see any of his DNA in there?
Oh.
Does his involvement kind of make this the best, I guess in a way, Dark Souls game? Like the best sort of like sword and sorcery kind of...
So, we all know From Software games like to be ambiguous with its story.
Yes.
Like, all of the story, a lot of the story in the lore are reading item descriptions, going in, kind of piecing together as you move throughout the story,
Right.
of piecing together what's happening in the world. This one is probably a little bit more forward
Okay.
in terms of its story. There's still, okay, the forward nature of it, of like your mission in the game, which is essentially, and they say it in all the trailers and everything, is to assume the title of Elden Lord
Right.
by going to the Erd Tree. And the Erd Tree is the big golden tree that you see in all the different gameplay segments.
Okay, yeah.
I haven't really, so full disclosure, I haven't finished the game. I got the game Thursday before, this podcast is going. So I haven't had,
Right.
I've played enough to get like the big understanding of what the game is about. So I don't know the whole meaning of like the Elden Ring and Elden Lord stuff.
Even if you beat it all the way through, I doubt you would.
Right. I would, there's a lot of dialogue
Yes.
between all the different characters. There's a lot of characters that you meet. They all give you the information you need to know, but it still has that From Software ambiguous text
Right.
there that's like, okay, what are the 2 fingers? What are the 3 fingers?
Okay.
Why are the demigods cast out? Like, why are they exiled? Like, there's a lot of questions that the game raises, and I would feel like the George R.R. Martin section of the game, and I would be fascinated to read an interview with the 2 of them to kind of talk about the story.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to know what George R.R. Martin's contribution to the story was.
Most of what he did was lay the groundwork of the universe, sort of like
Right.
give that big backstory, and then they filled in everything.
Well, if it's that, then this man must be like really good friends with Miyazaki.
Okay.
Straight up, because there are so many influences from a Dark Souls story and so many influences from a Bloodborne story
Okay.
that it feels like, even though it's not in the same lineage of games, like it's not in the same universe, it feels at home in those styles of games, like in lore-wise. The George R.R. Martin stuff, though, there are more knights, there are more, leaders who are, corrupt and kind of the high dark fantasy
So
stuff.
I guess in a way, it sounds more like Sekiro in terms of storytelling, because that had more of a direct narrative. There was less, inference and like trying to figure out things through environmental cues and storytelling and item description. So that's interesting.
It's very interesting. The story is interesting, and I would love to come back and talk more about the story once I actually finish through the end of it, because I feel like I'm on the cusp of big things being revealed.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to talk more about the story just yet.
That's fair.
But what I have experienced so far in my 32 hours of gameplay, it's like 32, 35 hours, I think. I can't remember what my last count is. And that might be a little bit exaggerated too, because the game never stops the clock when you're going through menus. So it might be more like 25 to 28 hours. But anyway, what I've experienced so far in terms of the story is very intriguing, because some of the things that they reveal and like some of the characters that you meet are like, who are the Tarnished? What are the they look like humans, but why are they called Tarnished?
Same thing with like the hollows.
Things like that. It's just very intriguing. It's a very intriguing game. But what's your next question?
This is I'm sure you can answer this because I feel like it's a game mechanic. Forever ago, when this game was leaked,
Right.
there was talk about how this was going to be kind of like a weird Mega Man kind of thing. Like you would visit bosses, defeat them, and there would be something about like taking off your arm and like attaching one of their powers to it. And in one of the trailers that they've revealed, like one of in the CGI, the character has an arm removed, and either they place it on there. Is there any
No.
credence to that?
No, there's nothing like that in the game.
Okay.
Outside of the typical Souls fare where you get like the boss soul and you can do things with the boss soul. There's some gameplay things I don't want to spoil because it is kind of cool how they do it. But you can use the boss soul, but instead of taking the boss soul to get runes, which is the currency in this game, right? Instead of getting runes, you trade it in to get specific equipment that relates to the boss you just fought. So like for the first boss that I fought, what's his name? The grifter guy. He grafts people's arms onto himself, right?
This is one of the few bosses that I've seen.
Right, it's like the second boss in the game.
Okay.
Main boss. That's a whole other thing too. The bosses are very unique in this game.
Okay.
So yeah, you can turn in his soul essentially and get his axe, or if you've seen the reveal of that boss, you see that he grafts a dragon head onto his arm.
Okay.
Right, and you can buy the dragon arm for yourself.
Amazing.
So I mean, you can do stuff like that, but it's not a gameplay mechanic of you're taking pieces of bosses and putting it on yourself.
It's how it's worked in From Software games.
Right. It's what you would imagine from a From Software game, Soulsborne game to be. But the bosses, very interesting. So because, as I mentioned before, the game really encourages you to explore.
Yes.
Because the first story boss of the game, right, you're not going to be prepared for if you head straight there. You're just going to get demolished.
Okay.
So what you have to do is you have to find these various dungeons scattered throughout the land, right? And they're very well hidden. Or there's a plenty open world bosses.
Right.
So you'll see in some of the gameplay, like I faced a dragon that just came out of the sky and just demolished. You've seen it in the trailers too. This dragon comes out of nowhere, wipes out these people, and you're just like, what the hell is going on? Like, there's a dragon here now, and you have to fight it.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. It's epic. Like, it's an epic moment. The music swells up. You feel like you're in this epic battle against this dragon.
Okay.
It's great. But you want to do things like that. You want to go fight the dragon. You want to find these dungeons, clear the dungeons. At the end of every dungeon that you'll find in the hillside of the opening area, right? You'll face a boss at the end. Now, the boss isn't very hard to beat, but it's like a opening boss of any From Software game. There is a strategy to beat the boss. So the game does a really good job of rewarding players who explore, right? Find these bosses, and then learn a new tactic of taking out a boss that might aid you in the actual main story boss fights.
Okay.
So I would say the opening of the game is a great tutorial of like how to swing your axe or sword or whatever, or shoot your magic bullets or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's only the cusp of it.
Okay.
It really teaches its systems by forcing the player to explore. If you're somebody who's expecting to go in and just golden path this game, literally from the golden beams that are telling you where to go.
Right.
If you're golden pathing this game, you are not going to enjoy it. You're going to have a terrible time. You're going to think that the game is too hard.
Okay.
But since I took the time to clear out most of the optional objectives that I could find, I'm sure that there's some hidden stuff that I completely missed.
Yeah.
That other players, better players than I am, are going to be able to find, and we'll see YouTube videos about it, of like, make sure that you go find this shack on the farthest corner of the map.
Right, those weird secrets that only pop up randomly that one person discovers and then spreads like wildfire.
And what's crazy too is there are things like that. For example, I found this random shack that had a painting in it.
Okay.
Right? And it was interesting that you looked at the painting and it just had like a description of like you grab the painting shard and you put it in your inventory.
Okay.
And then you open it up and it's like if you possibly visit, it says it in the item description. You would never know if you didn't read it, right? If you visit the location that's on the painting, you might discover something.
Well, I mean, there's been the painted world of Ariamianis, or however you say it, in Dark Souls. There's been a couple like random things like that.
So, in the first painting, I visited it.
Mm-hmm.
I found something there, and that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
It's very cool. Like, the things that you can discover just by exploring and learning how the game works is much more, is a huge reward in and of itself. And the bosses are awesome. I mean, like, the regular bosses are kind of meh, but like the dungeon, like, throughout the open world are kind of like the standard fare, but the main story bosses are amazing.
I was going to wonder or ask you if, from your time, if there's been like a knockout boss, because I feel like in every From game, like this is a special boss that's going to be in like the top 10 of the rankings or whatever. Right. For me, like one of the best bosses, I think, is Lady Maria from Bloodborne, the DLC, that clock tower, the music, that's great. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Are there is there one that you're in it and it's just special, like like the combination of scenery, music, difficulty, and aesthetic?
For me, the Flame Lurker in Demon Souls, by the way, is my favorite boss of all time. Like in the remake, it's just epic and amazing. But anyway, in Elden Ring, there is a boss that. Okay, I'm trying to like skirt what I can and cannot talk about because I just beat it.
Yeah.
Like before I came here. It is a boss that fans of everything are gonna love.
Okay.
That's all I'm willing to say. And it will probably be in the top lists.
Okay.
Only because I think people are gonna love it.
Yeah, one of my questions that I'm not really going to ask, but you just talk about is, I think there's been very obvious connections between all the games.
Right.
Bloodborne a little bit on the edge, but I think you could still imply some stuff from it. But
sure.
Especially the Dark Souls, those have all been connected through very obvious things, and sometimes
there are a lot of people who have put together that maybe Bloodborne and the Dark Souls games and Demon Souls are all somehow connected.
I know you probably can't explicitly say, but do you think there's stuff in there that people will find that will tantalize them? Okay.
So, like I just mentioned, like the painting that I found in like the first area of the game, right? That's an interesting throwback to Dark Souls 3, right? That you can go into the painting or is that the first game? I think it was in both.
There's, I think 1, 3, and even 2, because 2 had the one where you would go into the giant's memories.
So in this, you don't go into the painting. You just visit the location of the painting but the painting is still interesting.
Unless it leads to a quest line that's the thing I'm curious about. Are there any traditional sort of like Ubisoft, Horizon, open world, not tropes, but are there quest markers? Are there is there a menu that's like, here's quests?
No.
So it's like, most of it's just sort of like Dark Souls. You go to a place knowing that this is probably where you need to go, and you do that.
So there are side missions, right? So,
but they're not explicitly stated.
But they're not explicitly stated. There's nowhere that you can go check like a log of like, this is your progress on this. It's all natural. It's all, it flows through your whole experience of the game. If you miss it, you miss it. If you complete it, you complete it. If you want to go ahead and tackle things because obviously you'll hear characters like drop hints of like, oh, I'll meet you here, right? But you may not be near ready to go to that section of the game. There's no Ubisoft elements.
Okay.
What I mentioned before of revealing sections of the map. So when you first enter the world, you have nothing.
Yeah.
Like you don't know the lay of the land. You press the touchpad on I'm playing on a PS5. You press the touchpad, you bring up the open world map, right? Which there is a map, right? You can see everything.
That's good.
You have to collect map fragments from like pylons.
Okay.
Like there are these pylons that are marked.
Right.
Right? So you can set a marker. Like you can use the open world map and you can set a marker and you'll see this blue glowing
Right.
light in the distance that you can go to, right? But it's not going to tell you how to get there. There's not like a path thing that you can set. And when you get that map fragment, it's only like a small section of the map. So you have to go to all these different sections to uncover the full map.
Now, that map, is it sort of, because from what I've read, a few of the previews, it sounds like there's like tunnels, there's underground paths.
Yeah.
It's a layered map.
Yeah.
Does it sort of show those things to you explicitly? It's just like, this is kind of like what it looks like from a bird's eye view.
So it's literally like if I handed you a topographical map, like no markers, no names, nothing. That's the map. That's the map you get. Until you discover the sites of grace, which are like your bonfires, your lanterns from Bloodborne, things like that. Sites of grace, like that's where you level up. You find those, and then those will be revealed on the map.
Okay.
Right? And when you clear certain ruins or dungeons, those will be revealed on the map.
Okay.
But only when you clear them.
Yeah.
Then you can fast travel to any of the sites of grace, anything, at any time. It requires no materials. You don't have to lose any runes. Nothing. You can, if you're able to press your map, sometimes the game will lock you out of that because it's like you're not able to fast travel in this section.
Right.
But and it's usually when you're in the middle of a dungeon and you haven't cleared it yet, they won't allow you to fast travel out of it. You have to clear it or die, essentially.
Fair.
But no, those are the only things on the map that are ever revealed. The way you can kind of glean where certain dungeons are, or perhaps landmarks that you need to visit, you can go to a merchant and purchase, or you can even find them in the world sometimes, handwritten notes.
Okay.
They could either be like, some fishermen went missing, you might need to investigate where their whereabouts, last known location was the beach.
Yeah.
Or you found a smithing stone.
Right.
The smithing stones have been known to be mined at this mine that is south of this ruin. And so it's like, oh, you found the ruin. Oh, I also know that there might be a mine south of this ruin. So you just naturally go and explore and you'll find it. Whether or not you're ready for that dungeon.
Right. There's no real way of knowing until you get there.
Until you experience it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is leveling up just traditional? You spend experience points, increase
very much so.
Everything basics. Okay.
Yeah, so you go in, you increase vitality, endurance. So instead of MP, like magic points, right? It's FP, faith points.
Okay.
So a big aspect of this game is faith.
Yes.
Like it's magic derived out of some religious aspect. And that's kind of pieced together through the story. Like there's different sects of the faith, followers of the 2 fingers, followers of the 3 fingers.
Are these covenants, basically?
Essentially, yeah. And you kind of can learn different. There's like a draconic order that you can learn dragon magic. There's blood magic. There's like a bunch of different things, but it's all derived from faith. In these different things. And yeah, it's all of the same. You earn runes. You can put 1 point into each of your stats until you have your build that you're looking for. I just discovered a cool new... I can talk about it. There's a feature in the game.
Yeah.
Because you know how these From Software games are.
Are these like the supers?
No, okay, I'll get to that.
Spirits?
I'll get to that too. That's really cool. That's really cool stuff. Yeah. But no, there is a way that you can reallocate all of your points into a different build if you want to.
Okay.
You know how all these From Software games have a certain item that could be of a story significance.
Right.
And I'm not going to say what the story significance is of this item, but it allows you to essentially recreate your character in terms of stats. There is also a way to change the cosmetic look of your character. You can go in and change, if you don't like, after you make your character, you don't like how their face looks or their hair or anything, you can always go back. There is a mirror in the hub section when you unlock that you can go into the mirror and fix that. Yeah, it's great.
All right.
It's great.
Well, here, I guess
Sorry.
my last Elden Ring question. Where does From Software go from here? Do they continue with this kind of series? Do they continue with this open world concept? Or is it kind of like a Dark Souls 3 situation where they need a new Bloodborne in between it?
Okay. Oh God, I want them to do another Bloodborne
I know.
so badly, but I love this game. Mm-hmm. Like, it is obviously From Software. Like, they are the masters of this kind of game.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of people who try to make, a copy of this game, or they try to take their own take on it, but there's nobody who does it better than From Software.
It's true.
If they wanted to do another open world game, whether it be in the world of Sekiro, or if they wanted it to be in the world of Bloodborne, but an open world, I'd be down for that.
Okay.
I think that'd be cool. I would like to, so my big gripe with the game is the gameplay engine is just, it's showing its age.
Yeah.
It does not look like a 2022 game should.
Yeah. That's fair.
The textures are often flat. But again, the game is still beautiful in its own way.
Yeah.
It still kind of has that painting aspect to it, where it's so unapologetically From Software dark fantasy.
Yeah,
And that you can't fault it. But we've seen what Blue Point did with the remake of Demon Souls, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And it kept that essence of FromSoft.
True.
That I'd like to see them maybe up the ante a little bit in terms of graphical fidelity, because I know they can.
Oh, of
we
course.
know they can. That I'd like to see them do something like that. Give us Bloodborne 2. But if you want to do it open world, sure, do it open world. Like this, this shows that they can do open world in that style. I just want them to continue making these games.
Right,
like,
they've evolved the formula, basically.
Yeah, they've evolved the formula. There's still plenty of things that I would say are frustrating in terms of I wish it was a little bit more responsive in terms of like being stun locked and
janky kind of stuff.
Janky kind of things like that. But we're going to talk about PSVR 2 here in just a second but Elden Ring is the biggest game, and we can't just be contained to 30 minutes. And I don't know what I was thinking being contained to 30 minutes. But the mounts. It's an open world game. We've never had a mount in a FromSoft game.
Right.
The mount is amazing. It's a huge gameplay feature that I was kind of hoping it would be.
Yeah.
You can see in like all the different gameplay that we've shown here of me fighting the dragon. That is the best way I've found to fight that dragon.
Yeah.
If you're not a magic user.
Okay.
Doing drive-bys essentially on enemies in the open world is awesome. The mounted combat is great. The ability to double jump is awesome with the mount. Its name is Torrent.
Okay.
Great name for a horse goat thing.
Is it always that? Are there any skins for it?
No, yeah, it's always that.
Okay.
It's always that. I think from again, I haven't finished the story, but I feel like the vibe they're going with is the horse from Shadow of the Colossus, where
that's a good one to go with.
Even if you're not necessarily paying attention to forming a bond with this thing, it is with you through thick and thin.
Yeah.
That if anything happens to this creature, I am going to feel awful.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
it can die. Like, it can die. It has its own health bar.
And it's gone forever?
It's not gone forever. You
Okay.
have to use one of your, and now I'm blanking on the name, your health potions, essentially, to revive it. You can feed it berries to, you can find berries in the open world to feed it to revive it or replenish its health.
Yeah.
And it's a great gameplay feature. It's great also to just navigate the open world, because what I was saying earlier is on foot, the open world seems huge. It seems daunting. It's like, how am I ever going to have enough time to do everything?
Right, that's fair.
But having the mount on your side, being able to run relatively fast, right, is a great advantage. It has its own like dodge mechanic.
Okay.
You can kind of sprint fast.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't always work. It uses your own stamina, so you kind of have to gauge that a little bit, but it's great.
Will there be horse builds for this game?
No. So there's no like stats you can.
Well, I know, but like I'm saying something that is tailored to making like full stamina, long weapons.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I could see that being a feature. Absolutely, especially if you're a magic user.
That'll be like a Souls Twitch stream, you know, only using the horse. Or
only using the horse, yeah. And I mean, obviously, there's some like boss sections you can't summon the horse, but it's a cool gameplay feature. I'm playing through the game right now as a melee build because that's just how I enjoy playing these games.
Right.
Even Demon Souls is the only other game that has had like an emphasis on magic builds.
Yeah.
Dark Souls and Bloodborne, obviously. Bloodborne.
No,
not at all. Yeah. And Dark Souls was useless.
You can try, but
it's not fun. People only do it, like you said, for the Twitch streams, like magic only, no armor.
I was garbage at it. So.
Yeah, but Demon Souls, the magic was incredibly overpowered.
Yeah.
This game is very much in that same vein, where I'm a little bit disappointed that I didn't choose a sorcerer or I can't remember what they actually call it, but like a faith-based class at the beginning of the game, because there's so many boss fights and things that I'm just like, it's too hard to run in when this guy moves at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and I can't.
That's why you've got to do what I did with Dark Souls 3.
Yeah.
And I never finished it because I was just doing naked build.
I mean, you can. You absolutely can.
I played Dark Souls 3, no armor, just a melee weapon.
Yeah.
And of course, I lost my save when my PlayStation 4 died.
Sure.
So I have to start over again. But I refused to play with anybody. I refused help.
Yeah.
And I got to the second to last boss.
Oh, okay.
With that build.
Okay.
So it's possible.
I mean, you can do it. I mean, it's like all the other Souls games. You see like the ghost of other players like running around and stuff. So yeah, ever so often I'll see just like this naked guy like running around, and I'm like, okay, well, obviously some people are trying that out, and it's probably a viable.
That's interesting that a reviewer is trying that out too.
I mean, it could be some devs too.
Yeah, that's true.
Because like, you know, I don't know how many like review codes I sent out, but there's like a lot of nodes scattered throughout the world, and I'm like, there's some reviewers who must just be assholes, because like obviously you'll find like the message on the ground that's like item here, and it's like you go down this path, there's no item there, and it's like the note at the end of the hallway that says like liar, and it's like great, thank you for that. Wasting my time, but it's part of the experience, right?
It is.
But the game is incredible. I think it's probably, I mean, obviously we just talked about Horizon last week, and you're playing through that now. You'll be playing through Elden Ring as well.
Hopefully, yeah.
Those two games, as it stands right now, are 100% going head-to-head for Game of the Year. And it sucks for Horizon because I think Elden Ring is going to get it. Elden Ring is one of those games that fans of From Software games, this is what they want. Okay. This is what they want. Like, it's more Soulsborne in every regard.
Just more of it, and better.
Just more.
Yeah.
I mean, you can only perfect that formula so much. And if From Software decides to never do another one of these games ever again, and this is like their magnum opus, like this is like they're done, like this is it, then this is a hell of a way to send it off.
Maybe there will be DLC. There has been.
There has been.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, this would be a great game to have DLC because the map fragments just kind of, I mean, it could just be a hidden part of the map that you're like, you haven't found the map fragment yet, but it's there. You know, like that would be something. That would be something. Ben, let's move on here. Let's talk about the next news story, the final news story of this show. So the PSVR 2 headset has finally been revealed. Reminiscent of the PSVR 1, the headset features a singular cable attachment to the PS5, all the while being lighter than the original. A lens adjustment dial, new ventilation around the lens shroud, and a built-in haptic feedback motor are also built into the headset. Ben, this looks like a natural evolution for the PSVR. What are your thoughts?
I'm excited. I hope it costs less than $400.
Yeah.
I think they can't. I'm thinking there's going to be $1,000 PlayStation 5 VR bundle that'll come with a new Horizon thing, the new Horizon game. I'm excited. I bought the PlayStation VR probably about a year or two after launch, and I spent not a lot of time with it.
Right.
It's just it's hard, having the cables, having glasses, trying to wear a thing that's like in your face. I played Skyrim in VR, I played Tetris Effect, I played a lot of review games. Like I reviewed probably 5 or 6 VR games, and I enjoyed all of them. It's a great experience, and like one of those things that, had I had more friends in person, I would have been like, check it out.
Right.
But I think that they'll be able to, with a single core design, with the OLED screen, the definition this is going to do,
Right.
probably bring it to a wider audience, especially with the power of the PlayStation 5. I think it'll make it better. Hopefully, I'm hoping Resident Evil 8 VR mode, because we had it with 7.
Right.
There's
Right.
got to be one for 8.
Well, isn't there also Resident Evil 4
Resident
VR?
Evil 4 VR.
Yeah.
Let's hope Half-Life Alyx is going to come to the
Oh,
same.
that would be great.
I think now you have the backlog of VR content that could you have to imagine that Sony has designed the controllers and the headset with backwards compatibility in mind, because you're going to have this massive amount of games that you can play, and will help people be more interested in it. Having Horizon be a launch, I don't know what it is, but
They say it's I would imagine it's one of those VR
experiences,
experiences.
yeah. Like a Batman kind of
like
thing.
a Batman, yeah.
But
which
even
could be cool.
Even then, if you're getting 4K HDR in a virtual setting, that's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
And I understand why they haven't announced price. I understand why they haven't announced release date. Maybe they're waiting until next year or a personal show, but I feel like they're gonna want to put it out even if there's not a lot of PS5s. In the wild.
I think right now the problem is the supply chain stuff
Yeah.
and just being able to get all the parts to make this headset. I think they're probably just waiting until the last moment they possibly can to be like, how many of these can we actually make and get here? Because these are obviously being made.
Yes.
They're obviously going to be, I would imagine, this year. I think a October launch, like to go along with like the initial
God
one
of
came
War.
out. Come out with God of War.
Yeah.
If they come out and say like, hey, you can play PS5 games in VR in like the theater mode, and you can have like this crazy surround like widescreen experience. Like, there's things that they could do to entice people to buy it. I don't think you're gonna have a problem selling it to people,
Right.
because the VR crowd, especially the PSVR crowd, wants this.
Yes.
Right. I don't think you're necessarily gonna sell it to people who have a Oculus Quest or a Meta Quest or whatever it is.
Right.
Because those people, like, they buy it for Christmas, they wear it once on Christmas Day, and then they're done with it because it's a kind of a party thing. The people who are going to buy this and evangelize this are the ones who are like ready for it. And I think the $400 price point, like you mentioned, is going to be fine for them.
Yeah.
Because that's still going to be the cheapest high-end headset that you can buy.
How much is?
The HTC Vive is still like $900.
Yeah. And
And you need you need a PC with it.
How much is the what's the other one?
The
Oculus other.
Oh well, the Quest is now their mainstay one.
Okay.
It can be plugged in with a USB-C cable to your PC.
They don't have an Oculus Rift anymore?
No, like the Quest is like
Okay.
their headset.
All right.
You can use your PC to have a better picture quality and everything in the Quest, but yeah, it's a very intriguing piece of hardware. I want to see more games. I want to see, like, Horizon isn't interesting, but I want to see, like, is Gran Turismo gonna have a mode? Like, that would be awesome. I think that's kind of one thing that they tried to do with Gran Turismo Sport on the PS4, but the biggest feature are the external cameras on the headset. You don't need the PlayStation camera anymore
That's great.
tracking it. And I think that was a big problem with the initial headset, especially with, like, Gran Turismo, because you have your wheel here,
Yep.
you have your camera here, and the wheel is blocking the lights on the headset, so you're losing tracking and you can't do anything, so it's not fun.
Well, and you're like trying to look at a car,
Yeah.
and you want to be far away enough from it,
Right.
And now you won't have to worry about those things.
Well, and I'm also curious about games that will utilize those cameras. cameras because now you don't have to be standing directly in front of like your TV or your station. You can be setting like next to your PS5 anywhere.
Right.
Right? Like as long as you have enough space around you. So I'm wondering, like, are there going to be games that really utilize that? Is there going to be a new Astrobot game that really utilizes
Yes.
that? Like, there's
Destiny.
Like,
I'm surprised that's actually not a thing, like a Destiny VR.
they could be working on something.
Well, I imagine I would hope so.
So Insomniac has a VR studio.
Yes.
Where is the Spider-Man VR experience? Like, why
Maybe it's coming.
Why don't you have something like that? Why don't you have...
Imagine how, like, nauseating that would be, like, web slinging through New York City.
I tell you what would be better.
Yeah.
Is during a state of play, right, in the future, not even this year, like next year, have the Wolverine game, but no.
Oh.
Do it PT style.
Okay.
In VR, be like, there's something, there's like a new VR experience that you want to check out, and you get in there, and like you can't do anything. You're walking through like the bar from that you see in the Wolverine game and stuff.
Yeah.
And you are Wolverine.
Yeah.
But you're walking in, and you can only see your hands, and they're like all bruised up and everything, like you're holding the controllers up, and it doesn't let you do anything until you hit the triggers and the claws come out.
At the very end, though.
But at the very end, and then you can just start fucking people.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Like, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
That would sell PSVR units and
Yes,
be
it
like,
would.
Wolverine is, yes, going to be a game that you can have by itself on PS5. But the studio, the whatever Insomniac satellite studio is making VR games, we're also going to have a VR experience with it. Where you can just slice motherfuckers up.
I was gonna say, like, maybe a lot of these studio acquisitions they're doing are like they've been like PC and port companies and things like that. Maybe they're working on porting like some sort of experiences to VR. Because Insomniac could be working on a side project. Blue Point, the Astrobot people, like even if they release alongside of these main games, even if they are like a couple hours, I think that would still entice people because no one probably wants to play too many big like a true Horizon game in VR. As great as that might be, it would eventually, I think, grate on your senses.
Yeah, so the problem that I've always had with PSVR, right? The higher end headsets not as much, and that's what I'm hoping they alleviate with this is like the sense of motion sickness that I get when you actually have like free control of moving through a world, but you're not moving yourself. Like I just start to, something in my head just doesn't sync up right.
Yeah.
That's why Resident Evil never really worked for me.
I've never played Resident Evil on VR yet.
It was nauseating, and not because of like the horror aspects of it. They also had the option of like you could teleport to places.
Yeah,
But I
don't
think
like
that's kind of a cop out.
It's weird and unsettling, I think, to like go forward. The only time I've ever felt sick during a VR experience was at E3, where there was this glove that you could pretend was like a stick on a cockpit, and you were wearing a headset and it was hard to control, but like I went down really fast, and and they had you sit in a chair and I almost fell out of the chair because it would just like threw me off. And I almost threw up, but otherwise I've been pretty good about motion sickness. But I do think like playing like Skyrim, for example, it just did not look good.
It doesn't look good. Yeah,
it looked like borderline PS3 quality, and even maybe
I mean, it was a
worse than
PS3
that.
game, so.
Yeah, exactly. But again, I guess it a million times. But even then, it's just you want something that really feels like that console experience. But I don't think making a console game into a VR game is the same because it's it's not as good. Yeah. Even like a first-person shoot, well, even an FPS, that would be fine because those are short experiences. Right. But those open-world big things, it's cool for a little bit. Then you're like, let's just sit down with a controller. That feels better. And maybe they'll convince people, of the opposite. Like, maybe you'll want to play Forbidden West in VR. I don't know.
I don't know. If they have the screens that are high enough quality, which they say they are, 4K OLED.
Right.
What?
120 hertz refresh,
140
maybe?
hertz, I think they said. Like super high refresh rate.
Yeah.
It's one of those things of you'll never know and this is what I said and what I had a thought of when they first announced the first PSVR. You have an impossible job of selling this to anybody because you, especially now in a COVID world or post-COVID world or whatever you want to call it, you can't have people going to Best Buy and trying it out.
Right.
You can't have people at conventions trying it out. You can't have these headsets that you're constantly having to wipe down with alcohol because eventually the rubber is going to just start peeling away.
Right, yeah.
And you don't want to be like, try this on, and the rubber's peeling off, and you're
Yeah,
like,
no,
I'm
that's
not
fair.
buying this.
Well, because E3 is where I got my first VR games, and that's what sold me on it, was
Yeah.
being there, playing a bunch of demos of things, and be like, this is great. I want to experience this
So
myself.
what I'm excited about is getting one in my own hands, and then just letting people try it out at the house or whatever. I remember that, like you mentioned, you didn't try it out with anybody when you first got one when it first launched. I remember having Logan over, and my brother was there too, and we set it up. We moved the couch out of the way. We cleared out the whole living room.
Right.
We just cleared that room, and we were like, we're just gonna play any of these games.
Yeah.
Like just pop one in and just try it out. And I remember having so much fun that first night. But after that, the infrequency of these games just didn't hold up to where I was hoping it would.
I think it's kind of like a Wii Sports effect.
Yeah.
When I played Wii Sports, like someone in college got a Wii launch
Yeah.
night. We played Wii Sports Tennis and all those things. I was on, the fence about getting
Right.
a Wii, and then I was like, well, let me see if I can like call a Best Buy or something that's open tomorrow morning and get one. And I never got a Wii.
It's shocking.
I held off, but yeah, I think after a while that love with it and that
Kinda
initial
went away,
amazement,
yeah.
it'll fade away, and you need actual real mind-blowing virtual reality experiences to
Yeah.
sell it and be like, oh, I invested in this
Yeah.
thing for a good reason.
See, that's why I'm a little bit afraid of the PSVR 2 in terms of how Sony is talking about it, because out of nowhere on a random blog post on a Tuesday morning, they released the pictures of the headset, like what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
On Tuesday morning, they did the
well,
same thing for the
PSVR
controllers.
2, 2022.
Okay,
Maybe that's why.
yeah, maybe it's like a nice little thing, but still, like, they haven't had like a state of play all
Yeah,
about VR.
of course.
They did the same thing with the controllers. They did the same thing when they announced the name PSVR 2. They announced the name and Horizon at a unpublicized CES conference
That's
this
right,
year, back in
yeah.
January, that nobody even knew was happening until it was just out there. So they're not doing anything to really talk about this thing. I'm waiting for whatever 2022's first big state of play is for PlayStation. It's got to be big, right? Because
Yeah.
they got to be revealing the release date or at least the release date and price
Yeah.
of the PSVR 2, whatever PS5 games they're working on. I want to know what games are coming to this other than Horizon. Like, we can talk about all day, like, what games we'd love to see. Like, today was just announced that 2K is going to start making Lego sports games.
Yeah.
I think a Lego sports game in VR would be kind of cool. Like, if you had, like, your little minifigures that you like,
can build it yourself.
you had like God view over like
Yeah.
the court, and you can like go in and pick up the different minifigures and build it and
think
build
that-
your court like a basketball game or
That's
something.
a great idea, yeah.
Build your court, and then just play the game with like a regular DualSense, but
Mm-hmm.
you can like look in at the different views of the.
That's
of
a
the
great
thing.
idea. And
Like-
a thing with another Astrobot experience, because that all
Yeah.
took place inside of a PlayStation
Yeah.
5, so like why not do... I
Yeah.
never played Rescue Mission, but I've heard it's one of the best things
Yeah,
on
I
PSVR.
played like the first 2 or 3 worlds of it before
Yeah.
I sold my PSVR again, because I was just like, it's sitting in the corner gathering dust. It's too much of a hassle to set up.
I wonder if I should sell mine.
Now it's not, because like nobody's gonna.
Maybe?
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. It works with PS5, so I don't know. But the hassle of it too. I'm really excited about the single USB-C cable that you have to plug into
Yes.
the front of the PS5.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that the cable is long as hell.
They know. I mean, it'll be...
It has to be the
12 feet,
longest,
maybe?
whatever the max is that you can do for a USB-C cable, which is probably like 12 feet or something.
Right.
It has to be that.
It's got
Like, I don't know about the location. Like, we're looking at an image of it here. I don't know about the location of it on the back of the neck. I guess it's good so you can kind of toss it behind your shoulder.
Yeah, it'd be better than on the front, I guess, because
Yeah.
it'd get in the way of like movement.
I do like the lineage of how it looks like an iteration of the first PSVR.
Yes.
It doesn't look like a like other than the controllers. Obviously, those are radically different.
Yeah.
It's gonna be kind of weird because I thought it looks like you're gonna hold the controllers too. I thought they were gonna go around your hand, like your fist, but it looks like they're actually gonna go more around your wrist, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't really expect that. I wonder how that's gonna feel, and I wonder if you have massive hands. If you're gonna be able to fit your hand through, or you're gonna have to like get butter and like squeeze it through the hole. Yeah. I don't know, man.
Talking my language. Butter.
Hey, it's rated M, you know.
Yeah. I was also gonna say it kind of looks like something that Aloy would find.
It does look like a Focus.
Those
big,
or just like one of those weird armor plates that
Yeah.
people wear on their bodies
Yeah.
in that game.
Yeah, it does look like that. Maybe that's kind of what they're going for too. There's a lot of people who are like, does it come in other colors? Does it come in black? And it's like, who cares?
Who cares? You're not looking at it.
It's on your face. Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to see it. What was also interesting in one of those images, it looked like the visor around, like go around your eyes. It looks like it's adjustable, and I know they said that the actual part of it is adjustable.
Yeah.
But it's ventilated. Like there's a lot of ventilation,
That's great.
which you've mentioned like is going to be great to stop fog. And if you get like a really sweaty face or something, like it's going to alleviate that.
Yeah.
Get some airflow in there. I don't know. I'm excited. $400 probably.
Yeah, it's got to be. That's the price of a digital PS4.
Yeah. So $800 entry point.
And that's got to be with a controller.
$30 for Horizon.
Yeah. And again, I'm saying $1,000 for those weird bundles that you can only buy at GameStop to get a PS5.
Yeah.
You got to buy like 10 games.
GameStop's going to have those.
Oh, yeah.
GameStop's going to have those. Walmart's going to have those. If you want one, you're going to be able to get one. I'm going to attempt to get one through PlayStation Direct just because they have the free 2-day shipping for PlayStation Plus members and stuff. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Rated M for Mature. As always, you can find us over on YouTube and Twitch, and be sure to check out all of our reviews over on digitalchumps.com. We want to hear your thoughts. Have you been playing Horizon Forbidden West? Are you excited for Elden Ring? Be sure to let us know on Twitter or in the YouTube comments down below. As always, I've been Alex Tudor for Ben Sheen. We will see you next time.